Chuck, are you jumping in? I just started it. Yeah, it's me. All right. Chuck, can you hear me? I can't hear you when I have my headphones on. Can you hear Renee typing in the background?
Oh, am I supposed to be typing?
Yes. All right, she's not typing too loud, so we're probably okay. All right, we're just going to hang out for a few minutes, and looks like my screen is visible. Everybody can hear me. All right, sometimes Renee's a loud typer. And she's going to glare at me and make me laugh through this whole thing. All right, well, we'll get started in just probably about 3 minutes. We'll give people time to refresh and get the stream started. So I will be back then. All right, so let's get started. Looks like we've got just a couple people in here right now, and uh, Chuck informs me that people will be able to rewind and watch this again or jump in live. So this is not new to Chuck, but it is new to me. So Chuck will be here to help if there's any issues along the way. So I'm going to log in and I'm just going to use Spanish Novice as an example, but we're mostly going to focus on the new platform features that were released this just about 2 weeks ago. So these apply to all of the titles. If you have questions about something title specific, we can take a look at that towards the end. If you have questions on anything, really, you can type them into chat. I will either get to them when I notice, or Chuck can also help answer as well. Alright, so the first thing I want to look at is the assignment tool. So let's go to an auto-graded activity here. And the assignment tool is still in the same spot that it was last year. So we've got this assignment icon, but everything else is going to start looking different once we get in here. So instead of just a list, we're starting with a calendar view. So as you're assigning assignments and as the students are coming in here to see what they have due, they'll see it on this calendar. We can also switch to list view, which is going to look more like how it did last year. So we'll go back to calendar view and let's create a new assignment. So we can either create assignments for the current page we're on, or we can create assignments for anywhere from anywhere. So if I want to assign something from chapter 2, we can just jump right in and do it here. It'll highlight in green, and then we'll use the selected page. So you don't have to be on the page you're assigning. Then we have 3 options now for the due date. No deadline and specific date were there last year. So no deadline, the students can complete it whatever. It will show up on today when the students log in. So whatever day it is, the students will have that showing up on their calendar that day. Specific date will give them just kind of the end date. And then date range lets us pick a start and end date. So let's take a look at that. And we'll do from today to Thursday. So that's the range the students have to complete it. I can adjust the time if I want to make it available at, we'll say from 6 a.m. until Thursday at 11 p.m. Apply that. If we set it up in the future, that's what this show assignment before it is available checkbox is for. So by default, they can't see something that hasn't started yet. But if we check that, they'll be able to see it but not actually start it. And then the hard and deadlines are the same as before, where if they reach the hard deadline, they can't submit after that. So we'll use that date range. And now we have our assignment options. So last year we had submission limit and prevent students from leaving. Those function the same way. We've also added in a timer, so you can give the students a certain number of minutes to complete the assignment. Once the timer hits 0, it will submit their work automatically. We also have the require 100% option. So with this checked, it will stay in their calendar as a assignment they have to do until they do get 100%. So we'll just do the timer for now. And then we can select which classes. We can either do a full class or we can do specific students. So we can do a couple of these random students. Then we click finish selecting classes. We can leave notes, we can not leave notes, and then create the assignment. So you see here in the calendar there's 2 entries. It shows a different entry for each class because you can change the specifics and the date range for each of the classes and even for students in that class. So we see with the color coding, blue is Chris class, green is demo class. So let's adjust some of the settings on the Chris class assignment. When we click on it, we see when it opens and the assignment details and which students have completed it. So we'll hit edit assignment. If we edit the core details, it's going to apply to all of the students and classes in here. But if we want to edit just specific students or classes, we can do so down here. So let's change some class specific details on this. Let's change the timer. So in Chris class, let's only give them 5 minutes to complete it. So we make that change, we applied it. Now when we save, if I look here, it's saying activity timer of 5 minutes, and then demo class still has it set to 10. So let's jump over to an audio page and we'll assign that one. So let's assign this. So we'll do create a new assignment, current page. We'll do a specific date of tomorrow. With audio exercises, we have two options. We can prevent the students from re-recording. So once they've recorded each of the questions once, they won't be able to record it again. They will still be able to listen to it. We also have the automated recording option. So this will closely mimic the AP test style, where it will automatically play the question if there is one, and then we'll start recording right afterwards. Then as soon as they've stopped the recording, it will play the next question or phrase, whatever the audio is, and then the second recording will start, and so on to the end. So if you wanted to truly mimic the AP style, you could do both of these and they wouldn't be able to go back in and re-record once they've done it. So we'll do this with no options for right now, and we'll just assign it to Chris class and create the assignment. So we see that that popped up with our single due date of tomorrow. So let's jump over to the student view. I'm logged in as a student over here. And we see that same assignment icon with two assignments that are due. So when I click on the calendar, I see both of these come up. I can also switch to list view and see both of them here. If I click on this activity, it's showing me all the details, and I can click here to go to the assignment. So because this one is timed, there's a start button when we first get in here. So as soon as we click start, that timer's going to start going. So let's see how bad my Spanish is. So we see the timer's running at the top. As I scroll down, it updates every 5 seconds until they get down to a minute left, and then it will update every second. So nope, I think that one's la. I feel like I'm doing well, but we'll find out in a second since this is auto-graded. Alright, so I still have plenty of time remaining. 5 minutes was more than enough for this activity. You can go all the way down to a minute if you wanted to. So when I submit, I see that I got a score of 7 out of 10. Because it is a timed activity, during that assignment time frame, they will have to start it again, and it's going to time them, so they can only view it for so long. If I had set it to a single attempt, then it would have let me see it now, but not submit it again. So if I click start, we can see which ones I got right and wrong. Oh, I started off strong. Alright, and then we'll just refresh the page instead of submitting again. Alright, looks like I've got a question. Yes, by default, it allows unlimited recordings. So once I've recorded, I can go back in and listen to it and re-record it again. So since I completed that, We see that I've got one assignment left. The one that I just completed has been removed from the calendar, but it's still visible over in list view, where I can see right here that I got a 7 out of 10 and I can jump to the assignment. So let's go over to the recording real quick, just so we've got that in the teachers panel when we go back in. So this one, we didn't set any criteria with it. It's just showing at the top that it's been assigned to me and when it's due. So let's do a quick recording. No idea how this is going to work since I'm also using the microphone to talk to you guys. And when I press stop, I've got my audio there, so I can, as a student, listen to it and re-record it if I wanted to. One of the other things we adjusted this summer is that on rubric grading pages, which includes the audio, the rubric is going to appear at the bottom so the students and teachers can see what is expected before they do the recording. Alright, so let's switch back to teacher view. Actually, no, I'm showing on my notes. This is where I should ask if anybody has questions about the assignment tool. So I will wait a second for if anyone wants to type out any questions they've got, then we will get into the game center. I have started working on Google Classroom integration. It is not part of the summer updates, but I actually have a testable version. So if you want to email me, and I'll actually type my email address in here. It's telling me to create a channel to join chat. Chuck, if you could just type my email address into chat. Holly, if you want to send me an email, I can work with you to see about getting you testing that Google Classroom integration with us. Alright, so let's jump into the Game Center. So there used to be the PLV Voces Roundup icon down here. We replaced that with the Game Center icon, and then the Voces Roundup is located inside of it. So let's click on there and we'll see multiple games that are available for the students and for the teacher. So we'll start with Voces Match. So this is the replacement for the concentration game. We made some adjustments to make it more of a something where it's easier for the students to learn and practice with, as opposed to more of just a guessing memorization of where they are. So we'll do a new single player game, and we've got a couple of different options that we can choose. So we have which set to use. We can either do current chapter, so since right now we are in chapter 2, it is only going to give me terms from chapter 2. If I select that, all previous chapters would give me terms from chapters 1 and 2. And we can also create our own teacher sets here. So let's go with that one. Because it only has 10 cards, we only have the 3x3 option. With the other ones, we would have a 4x4 and 5x5 as well. There's also a no audio option, so if you're, we'll say if you're in class and your students don't all have headphones and you want them to play the game, you can do this so it's not just a wall of audio. So we'll do that and start the game. So there will be a mix of English and Spanish words up along the top, and then the corresponding translation will be under the cards. It could also be images or audio. For this set, I only did words. So let's see, we've got 5. I'm going to get at least one wrong on purpose just so I can show you that at the end. I assure you I can count to 10 in Spanish. Something we did with these is there are cultural images and facts that we put behind the cards. So as we uncover it, we will uncover, since we're in Spanish Novice, somewhere in the Spanish-speaking world. Let's get one more wrong on purpose. Once we've answered it, it's going to ask us a question. So and once we've submitted this, it's going to give us the correct answer as well as some fact or tidbit about that answer. So I think there's about 24 in Spanish and close to the same in French that are available and just randomly selected. So in addition to that, it's going to tell the student how many attempts it took to match those cards and give them the correct answers, or show them their incorrect matches without giving them the incorrect answers. So if we go back to the menu, we can see that in addition to single and 2-player game, which I'll touch on in a second, there's a leaderboard. So the student can see their rank compared with other students in the class. So I think this one right here is the one I just completed. And we can see the ranking for each of the sizes. So the student will be able to see their class as well as the global leaderboard, which is all students across all classes and teachers, but only the top 10. So it gives the students some incentive to keep playing it over and over and try and push onto that leaderboard. So I'm going to go back to the menu and actually switch over to teacher view so you can see what you would see in the game center as a teacher. One of the things we tried to do is make it so the games are providing some feedback for the teacher so you can see what they're playing, how they're doing. So we'll go back into the same Voces match. We'll see that there's an additional option here about creating sets. We'll jump into that in a second. On the leaderboard, I can see all of my classes as well as the global leaderboard. And in the My Results section, if I view results from the last 10 days, I'm going to see everything the students have played. So this is the one we just did in the other student window. 9 tiles, 11 attempts, how long they spent, what chapters or set they used, and then the incorrect matches they had. We can also view it by class and student, and we can see multiple and older sets, not just the most recent. So in the set editing, we'll take a look at the one I just created. So that's the webinar set here. If I click edit, we see my English and target language text. We can also add audio and image files. We can remove the matches. From down here, we can add other matches. We can also add our own background and cultural question by filling this out, adding the image, and that would replace the background for that question set. So let's cancel out of our changes here and switch over to the next game. Each of the games has an instructions set as well. So clicking on that goes through single player, two player, creating sets, and so on. If logged in as a student, they would just see the single, two player, and leaderboard information. So back to the Game Center. Flashcard Challenge is very similar to our old Flashcard Challenge, and we'll actually look at both single and two player here. So we have the same options where we can use current chapter, previous chapters, no audio. Flashcard Challenge has two modes. Speed mode, which is where the students are trying to get as many terms correct in 1 minute as they can. And Perfection, they're trying to get as many right as they can before they get one wrong. As soon as they get one wrong, the game ends. So in speed mode, which we'll just start up with that, and let's go no audio. The timer's going to tick down, and if we get it incorrect, the student loses 10 seconds. And let's see if I get any right. There we go. When I get one correct, it adds a few seconds to my time. And I ran out of time. So it's going to show me my incorrect matches, how many I got right. Chances are this isn't going to make the leaderboard. So very similar to how Flashcard Challenge ran in the past. With the two-player game, we can pick how many flashcards we're going to go through, and this is available in Match, Flashcard Challenge, and Story Shuffle, where the second player can actually put their information in so that when you're looking at the results, you can see that both Chris and Chuck played this game. Chris got 7 right, Chuck got 3 right. So you can see who's participating and playing. All of the games do have to be played on the same device, so the students would partner up on a Chromebook or iPad in class and play the games together. So back to the Game Center, Roundup has stayed the same. When this green is highlighted, that means a vocab word has been caught in the trap. So if we click on it, it's going to take us right into there. Other than a little bit of style changes to match the other games, everything functions the same way. The fourth game in here is Story Shuffle. So this game is going to provide prompts, whether it's target structures or vocab or prompts that you create from that chapter, and ask the students to write a short story. So let's do a single player game, and we're actually going to do a little bit of audience participation here. So as we go through the game, we'll do current chapter, and we'll just do 5 prompts. And we'll go with no audio, just to make sure we don't end up with any that we have no idea what the word is. So we start the game. We've got the prompt up here. And as a student, we would just, and actually, let's cancel that. Let's switch back over to student view. So I'm going to go back to this window here. And we'll go into student view so we can see afterwards what it looks like as a teacher. So we'll do current chapter, 5 prompts, no audio, and start the game. Alright, so this is where I'm hoping we can get some audience participation. Throw out a start to a story or sentence using this word right up here. And then the first one I see, we will pop in here and go through this for 5 prompts. So I'll wait a second and see what you guys come up with. All right. Looks like I will get us started. So let's start with I have 0 writers. You guys have driven me to Google Translate for that, so if I am incorrect, that would be why. All right, next prompt we have this one. And I am just going to jump into Lorem Ipsum. So the rest of it will be gibberish Latin. Feel free to jump in at any time if you want to change up how this is going. So there's our second prompt. Here is prompt number 3. And let's do a line break. That. If I try and write something that is too short, we'll just put the end. It's going to tell me that I can type more than that. We're expecting at least 10 characters from every prompt entry. So let's do this is really the end. So now we can see my story and we'll give it a title. So we give it a title, submit it, and now it has been saved. So when I switch back to the teacher view and go into my results and view results from the last 10 days, we can see the story that we just wrote, how long it took, what chapters I had vocab from, the specific prompts that I used, and then there's my story, and I have the option to approve the story. If the story is approved, and since this is gibberish, we won't approve this. Anything that's approved will be visible in the story library for other teachers and students to go in and view. So from in here, we can view stories that I haven't read, stories for my classmates only if we wanted to, or specific chapters, and then search the library. And once we start getting some teachers back to school and the students in here writing, we'll be able to view their stories and then potentially vote on them and see them in the leaderboards. So anything that shows up in here, we can see how many stories have been written, the most liked stories this month, and then we can click on those stories to read them. So this is one that I should probably go in and get turned back off because that was a sample. So back to the leaderboard. So does anybody have any questions about Story Shuffle or the other games? Holly, I look forward to seeing some of your student stories in the library once you get started back. Alright, so those are the two biggest changes. There's a few other small changes that I want to point out in the teachers panel and just kind of in general. So in the teachers panel, if we go into grading and results, right now I've got 2 activities in this class. So one of the first things you'll notice is this clear requires grading. We were seeing a lot of teachers that had 50, 100, 200 activities that were in here waiting to be graded. So this clear requires grading will let you either mark them all correct, all incorrect, leave a note for the students, and just kind of clear them all out of that list. So you could just leave a note here that says something like, everybody just got credit for completing the assignment. Mark them all correct, so it's an all or nothing sort of thing. That's really just there for when it builds up. And just to jump back to the question that was asked, yes, in 2-player mode, it would be 2 people on the same device. One would get a prompt. Once they're done with their prompt, the second student would get a random prompt, and so on. All right, so let's go into this activity. So what we have over here is we've added in a variable point system. By default, every activity question is worth 1 point. So if I mark this correct, I can assign a certain number of points. Maybe this was a really good answer and I want to give them 2 points on that one. They didn't answer any of those, so we'll leave those at 0. And when I save it, it's going to disappear. But when I look at the activity results, and that was in chapter 3, I can see that it was a score of 3 out of 10, but the student received 4 points. Something we brought back by popular demand is the ability to view the student's work on the page. So if I click this, I'm going to see a sample. And let's actually go back to the requires grading one. So if I click here, I can see the page exactly as the student was seeing it. So I can see their recording here. Those recording buttons should probably disappear. I will make a note of that. So you can see what the student was looking at, the questions they had, and the answers they put in there. The gradebook is very similar to what it was. What we did add in is the ability to only show the assigned activities. So if I check that and generate a report, I had just assigned these 2 activities from chapter 3, so those are the only ones that are going to show up, as opposed to having to sort through all of them to find the assigned activities. And one last thing I wanted to point out that was also kind of a popular demand update is instead of always having to log out and log back into switch titles, when you click the logout option, it will show you any other titles that you have access to. So if you have both Spanish Novice and Nuestra Historia Level 1, all I have to do is click right here, and it's going to jump right over to that title instead of logging out and logging back in. All right, so that sums up the platform updates. Does anybody have any questions about what I went over, or really anything in general about Voces? I'll actually take about a 2-minute break here to let anybody that has questions enter them in, and then I will pop back in and answer any questions that people have. That is a great point, Chuck. Yes, email us if you want trial extensions, or once you get in and start playing around with some of these updates, if you have any questions, feel free to email either one of us and we'll be able to help out. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Hopefully, we will hear from you guys with questions or feedback. Let us know what you think about the updates. All of our updates come from teacher feedback and working with our users. So your feedback helps us just continue to improve the platform. Thank you, and now I'm going to try and figure out how to end the stream. All right, I see a stop button. So thanks again for joining, and we will talk to you guys soon.